Guten Tag, everybody. I am back on Lufthansa long haul 18 months later. What made me give them another chance? The A380, of course, but not just that. Their first class, an experience I've loved since the moment I first flew it in 2017. To be fair, I was a Lufthansa fanboy back then, believe it or not. Now, well, things have changed. For the better or worse? Keep watching to find out. Today's adventure starts in Frankfurt, of all places. Why is that surprising? Well, Lufthansa doesn't fly A380s to Frankfurt anymore. They've decided to base their A380s in Munich, flying them to New York and Boston this summer. Look at this. I'm in Frankfurt because I'm flying from Dubai to New York, and just flew the first leg from Dubai to Frankfurt on Emirates A380. You can check out that review on the card now. Today, I'm continuing from Frankfurt to Munich to Boston. As always, stay tuned for the end to hear just how I paid and a big announcement for my regular viewers. But first, the day starts out in a very special way that has nothing to do with my first class ticket. Good morning. The long journey from Dubai to New York is now continuing in the most epic way possible. Today, we are using VIP services, so we don't have to go to the terminal at all. So this is our amazing VIP agent today, Terrace. She will be taking our bags. So now we've arrived at the VIP terminal. We don't have to touch them. She's taking the bags to the passenger terminal and we just cruise in and enjoy. Welcome to my private suite at Frankfurt Airport's VIP terminal. Frankfurt Airport VIP Services reached out to sponsor this video and I thought, wow, this will be a special experience because it's so exclusive. But it's actually not nearly as expensive as I thought, especially considering that most people opt to sit here in one of these lounges like the library. Transfer passengers can access this transit lounge that has bedrooms, showers, and of course a la carte dining, freshly cooked in the lounge, and you can order anything you want. There are meeting rooms, game rooms, there really is something for everyone. But the main thing everyone enjoys is a complete lack of stress. Imagine transiting and not having to see a single person besides your personal assistant and your private immigration and security officers if you don't want to. We're driven directly to the door of our plane in a car we requested from their fleet of dozens of luxury vehicles, a Bentley. Flying doesn't get more relaxing than this. If you've never tried VIP services and think it's only for the ultra rich, think again. This was not part of my ticket today, and in fact, I should point out that anyone can book this regardless of what airline or class you're flying in. You can learn more about Frankfurt Airport's VIP services at the link at the top of the description. If you have a trip coming up, I can't think of a better addition than this. So obviously I could fly directly from Frankfurt to New York, but then I don't get the A380, and regardless, I get to enjoy a Bentley to my aircraft. I can't think of a more fun start to a travel. Pulling up to the flight to Munich in a Bentley, I don't think it gets more convenient or comfortable than this. It's a quick domestic hop down to Munich, and we arrive right on time with many hours to spare ahead of our 3:35 p.m. departure to Boston. What better time to have a long connection than when flying first class? This is the Lufthansa First Class Lounge, Munich Airport. An oasis of calm that lacks all the pretentiousness I was concerned about before going. And yes, that sentence was intentionally pretentious. This is a relaxing, well thought out space. There are workrooms that silence phone calls for people outside. There are 2 bedrooms for a nap. These can be in high demand on our first come first serve. There are shower rooms. One even features a bathtub. This is a great place to freshen up and wash off the A320 stank. You know, to show proper respect to the A380. There's also an outdoor terrace. On a day like today when it's 34 degrees Celsius outside, no one seems especially keen on breathing in the fresh airport air. The highlight, at least for me, is the a la carte restaurant with food cooked in the actual lounge. We're seated by the windows with sweeping views of, what's that? A stranded Aeroflot A320 in the EU. Unbelievable to think that's been there since February 2022 and kind of satisfying that it's trapped like this. As we sit down, it's exactly 11 a.m. so we can choose between this breakfast menu, which looks amazing, and this lunch and dinner menu, which looks equally amazing. The drink list is also incredibly extensive and makes Lufthansa's onboard drink list look like a joke in comparison. There's also a gorgeous buffet with various foods. I make sure to grab a small selection as we settle in, and our waiter serves us this bread basket. Our a la carte breakfast starts with a mango smoothie which blows our socks off. Next, an acai bowl, which tastes about as authentic as you'd expect an acai bowl to taste in an airline lounge, you know, in Germany. But it's really delicious nonetheless. Our main, the pasta from the menu, tastes just as good as it looks. How naive of me to think the fun is over here. Of course, dessert. In my case, lychee sorbet topped with champagne. So extra. Why do they think I need champagne on my lychee sorbet in order to find it luxurious enough? This is one of, if not the best airline lounge meals I've ever had. The service is also great. I could easily spend an entire day here at the Lufthansa First Class Lounge in Munich, but unfortunately, all good things come to an end, and it's time to board our A380 coming up next. Say hello to Delta Alpha India Mike. In other words, damn! At the time of my flight, she's only one of 2 Lufthansa A380s back in service, and here she is getting ready to operate today's entirely sold out flight. Well, besides one first class seat that they're offering as an upgrade for 799 euros from business class over the loudspeaker at the gate. That's a mind-blowingly cheap price to upgrade a transatlantic flight to first class. But yeah, it requires you already having a business class ticket. What does this giant look like inside? Well, the Lufthansa A380 features 4 cabin classes, with 3 on the upper deck. 78 business class seats in a 222 configuration, that's a lot. Some economy behind that. Kinda crazy to think that Emirates has a bar in this space where Lufthansa fits all these economy seats. And then here at the very front of the upper deck, 8 first class seats in a 121 configuration. Today, Oscar and I are in 2G and 2K. Honestly, all seats are equal here, so let me show you around the cabin in person as we hop on board. The jetway is about 50 degrees, so Oscar and I sprint toward the cabin. This feels good. Let's be honest, this is probably the least impressive first class seat of any major airline nowadays, but it's still first class and a pretty sweet seat nonetheless. I love the calming, classy tones of Lufthansa's first class cabins. The A380 upper deck always feels like a cozy hideaway, and this cabin is a lovely place to be. The Lufthansa Rose adds an essential splash of color to the otherwise clotted cream-inspired cabin colors. And my seat, 2 kilo, looks very inviting indeed. There are no overhead lockers, so the cabin feels nice and airy. Instead, you have your own locker in front or behind the cabin to store your stuff. It even has a combination lock if you want to protect your valuables. So extra, but so fun. My favorite part of any Lufthansa first class flight is always before takeoff, because it feels like a celebration. The crew welcomes you on board, offers a drink of your choice with warm nuts, in my case, some bitter lemon with macadamia nuts, and then all the amenities start rolling in. Lufthansa has some of the most consistent service in the world in first class. It's friendly but contained. I describe it sort of like being served by your favorite teacher from school, caring but with a noticeable air of strictness. We are parked next to my favorite looking airplane in history, the Airbus A340-600. So as we begin our pushback, we get a full-length view of the Airbus flying pencil. We taxi out to the runway at 50 kilometers per hour, about 30 miles per hour, which feels like a racing car when you're in an A380. Imagine seeing a house flying by at 50 kilometers an hour. We eventually blast down the runway, lifting off for our 7.5-hour flight to Boston. Now that we're in the air, let's have a look around our seat. There is plenty of storage, obviously, with compartments here along the side and this bin/footrest. Both armrests have controls, one for the screen and one for the seat, and you also have not one but 2 charging ports all for yourself. Now that is opulence! When it comes to privacy, There is none, at least until after takeoff when the crew can raise the partition in the middle, giving me and Oscar more of our own space. All seats also have a partition on the side, but this is still among the least private first class seats out there. Again, that's not to say it's bad by any means, just less private compared to some other first class products. You know what is never bad? The A380 front lavatory. And Lufthansa has a fun little twist with a urinal. Finally, no more pee getting everywhere because some men insist on standing up even when there's turbulence. The lavatory is awesome with thick towels for drying your hands and all types of luxe amenities. Evian water mist only makes me think of the movie Triangle of Sadness now. I return to my seat because I'm hyped for the meal after my experience in the lounge. Come back to Earth, Danny boy. This is Lufthansa. That's what I should be telling myself. Stay tuned to see the meal coming up next. Our menu is spread across 2 pages with Lufthansa's usual extreme overcomplicating of things. No one knows what this stuff is, and an airplane is not the place to introduce it. Anyway, the drink list is quite good alcohol-wise and not so good non-alcohol-wise. We begin with some beautiful hot towels. Food time, featuring Lufthansa's famous first-class trolley. Anything from the trolley? We start with an amuse-bouche, the regular one, quail with quinoa, and my plant-based one, hummus wrapped in zucchini. There's also a bread basket, so I grab a pretzel and a random roll, which I enjoy with this heavenly balsamic reduction. Next, the appetizer trolley. These are the regular appetizers, then of course Lufthansa's iconic caviar service, and then womp womp mine. I think the normal food seems great so far, but goodness, this appetizer is one of the most horrible things I've ever eaten on a plane, and that says a lot. It doesn't even look bad, it just tastes absolutely rotten. For some reason, it isn't until 45 minutes later that this salad is served, and then another 15 minutes later, these absolutely embarrassing mains. Compare this to Lufthansa's sister airline Swiss and the incredible food they serve in first class. This meal is unfortunately a clear lowlight of the flight for me, both in terms of flavor and tempo. But honestly, at least the flavor part is hopefully better for the other passengers. Finally, dessert. There's a cart again, and here's my dairy-free cake, which is the first part of the meal I'd ever consider ordering one more time. Moral of the story for me, the food is much better in the lounge. Don't be scared to stuff yourself there ahead of the flight. Some positive surprises coming up next. At this point, it's worth mentioning some other things I like about Lufthansa First Class, because I like most of it despite this hiccup with the meal. There is free Wi-Fi for first class passengers, that's still rare, and to my surprise, the speeds are quite good too. I plan to work, but that plan is disrupted by having free unlimited Wi-Fi. So proceed with caution if you don't want to get sucked into wasting your entire first class flight scrolling on social media. But that is not Lufthansa's fault, just mine. You might want to watch movies or something instead, and Lufthansa has added a decent amount of content to their entertainment system in the past year. There's even a good selection of comedy TV shows, but the star of the entertainment is the Bose headphones that, although very retro, do wonders for noise cancellation. Not that the A380 even needs that. I decide to get more comfortable and change into pajamas, so it's back to the awesome first class lavatory to change. I have always loved Lufthansa's pajamas. They're something you'd actually wear and they look preppy in a good way. And how can we forget my favorite slippers in the world? Bedtime, or at least rest in bedtime. Lufthansa's first class bed is heavenly, so raise your privacy partition and get comfy. The bedding is crisp yet soft at the same time, and there is unrestricted space to move around. At 187 centimeters or 6'2", I have no problems with the length of the bed either. Honestly, don't you want to take a nap here just watching this? Lufthansa does tend to keep their cabins on the warm side, and there are no individual air vents, which sadly means I've often struggled to sleep in their first class despite the comfortable bed, so maybe consider bringing a portable fan. Like a USB fan, not one of these. Now, are you ready for something funny? Lufthansa has partnered with Porsche Design on this amenity kit and sadly replaced their old La Prairie toiletries with this random junk. Just kidding. In my opinion, Porsche Design makes some of the ugliest stuff out there, so I wasn't surprised to see this eye mask that makes you look completely soulless. It's absolutely terrifying. The kit is definitely nice overall though. The windows have blinds with 2 settings, and for some bizarre reason, only the crew can control them. So you have to ask them every time you want to adjust. Did the blinds break while this plane was sitting in the desert for 3 years or what? About 90 minutes before landing, it's time for the pre-landing meal, and again, perhaps naively, I'm thinking this will be great. This time around, I'm ordering both options from the menu for light meals, the Beyond Burger and the Mezza. 2 things I usually love, so surely Lufthansa can't mess this up. Well, let's start with the burger. I like the presentation and it tastes surprisingly good for a burger on a plane. This is definitely the best savory dish of this flight because what follows, oh boy, Lufthansa considers this a dish worthy of serving in first class? Qatar Airways serves nicer mezza in economy class on a 30-minute flight. I mean, I don't want to drag the food too much, but let's just say the tabbouleh tastes more like wastewater than tabbouleh, and the hummus has the texture of gravelly mud. Someone called the mezza police. This catering, which again is standard off the menu, is almost offensive on a ticket this expensive. We also had separate vegan options that actually tasted a bit better, but are the same thing you get in intra-European business class. Yikes. Anyway, as we approach Boston, I'm reflecting like crazy because here's the deal. First class is not the same as first class. For example, although Air France and Lufthansa are competitors, Air France, which has a far superior first class, consistently charges 2 to 3 times more for theirs. Lufthansa, Swiss, and British Airways compete in the quote-unquote cheaper first class market, and there, Lufthansa beats British Airways. However, Swiss beats Lufthansa on board, and I prefer their Zurich lounge to Lufthansa's Munich lounge, although again, both are amazing. It's difficult to compare different first-class experiences outside of those 3 because prices vary so widely, but I'd say it's appropriate to price Lufthansa first class at the level it's at. It's definitely more of a scaled-down first-class experience on board than many other airlines, but again, it's cheaper and it's still first class. You gotta love it, even if the food isn't great like today. Lufthansa first class remains one of the best ways to cross the Atlantic, especially if you fill up in the lounge beforehand. Now, let's talk prices. Okay, so how did I pay, guys? Well, today was a slightly more expensive redemption since it was first class and I just splurged. So obviously today I redeemed for 2 people, Oscar and myself. From Frankfurt via Munich to Boston was 100,000 Aeroplan points per person. That hurts. That's a lot of points to redeem, but luckily those points are quite easy to come by. You can buy them on sale, as I say over and over and over and over again. You can also sign up for one of the best starter credit cards in the world, or just a general credit card that's great to have if you don't already have it. This only applies to my US viewers, but for a limited time, the American Express Green Card has a sign-up bonus of 60,000 points. Of course, that doesn't get you this entire ticket, but it gets you a good way toward being able to redeem for this. That's also enough for a business class ticket between the US and Europe, redeeming via Aeroplan as well. So when you earn those 60,000 points, they can be transferred instantly over to Air Canada once you find the space. I'm working on a way to teach you guys how to do all this in more depth. But yeah, if you haven't already checked out that card and considered signing up, please consider doing that via the link in the description below. It's one of the best ways you can support me, my channel, and the objective reviews. So thank you so much. Okay, hold up. I forgot to actually record my big announcement here, but that announcement is, drum roll, I'm taking all of August off YouTube and social media. I love interacting with you guys, of course, and I cannot wait to return in the beginning of September. On that note, thank you so much for watching, and until I see you in the next one, fly safe.